there. Does that mean we're live now?
Yeah, go when you're ready.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the little bit of a late start here. A couple of technical challenges that I hope are all now addressed. Let's call the meeting to order and do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. I look forward to doing that in person again sometime soon. Next item on the agenda is hearings from citizens. So if you didn't have any input this month, I guess that's probably a little bit of an impact about having these meetings live as well. But I know folks are excited about all the good things that we'll be doing next year as Reinventing Metro gets kicked off. One thing I did want to say, again, not being able to all be together, I know that the board is going to be slightly differently constituted starting next month as the transition from city majority to county majority happens. And, I wish I could be there to shake everybody's hand and say thanks. And I look forward to, maybe having everybody over to the Sea House for dinner to celebrate. But I think you all should pat yourselves on the back a bit and should be proud of all the work we got done. I know the levy seems like a long time ago now, but that was a huge amount of work. Lay the foundation for some great things for the community. Not just the Reinventing Metro plan and the infrastructure money, but that we've really set ourselves up well, I think, with strong financial controls, new policies around how we want to engage with the organization, the community. And so really, really thrilled with that. And thank you all for all your hard work. Just really appreciate it all. I don't know that the county particularly has announced who all is coming and going, so I don't want to get too far ahead of that. But I do know that we'll be starting somewhat fresh. Brendan mentioned Mary. She wishes she was here today because this is her would have been her last meeting. So we'll celebrate her and all the great accomplishments that she did. She was such a big driver of engaging the community, and so really, really thrilled with that work. But I extend my thanks to all of you, and look forward to talking more in the future. But again, give yourselves a little bit of a round of applause. Okay, so action items. The minutes were attached to the packet. I hope that everyone had a chance to review. Open to motions to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right. Motion properly moved and seconded. Any questions? Is this voice or roll, Chanel?
It is voice.
Okay. All approved, say aye.
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 All opposed, right. Okay. Minutes accepted. Finance, Heidi.
Thanks, Craig. We had a busy finance committee meeting with lots of kind of end of the year stuff. Sorry, my computer is moving slowly. So some of the usual business, but also a couple of bigger things. The first thing that we want to share with you all today is the 2021 budget. And I'm going to turn this over to Michelle so that she can talk through it.
Great. Thank you, Heidi. So the SORTA staff is seeking approval of the 2021 operating and capital budget of $155,742,000. The SORTA staff has prepared a transit operating and capital budget for 2021 of $155,742,000, of which $121,509,000 is for operating and $34,233,000 is for capital, which which requires funding from the estimated Hamilton County sales tax of $92,537,000. Of the $34,233,000 capital budget, $14,678,000 of that will be funded from various grants already awarded, and the remaining $19,555,000 will be funded from a combination of the estimated Hamilton County sales tax funds received in 2021, as well as.
Michelle, am I supposed to be following along with something? Because on the screen, I'm not.
No, I'm just going through the action item first, and then we'll be going through the presentation. Sorry, Rod. So the remaining $19,555,000 for capital will be funded from a combination of the estimated Hamilton County sales tax funds received in 2021, as well as the City of Cincinnati Transit Fund true-up. Chanel, can you go to the next slide, please? So looking at the agenda, we'll start off with some good news and highlights for 2020, then on to discuss some of our challenges and opportunities that we face in 2021. We will then move to discuss our budget assumptions, the 2021 operating budget, and finally to our capital budget for 2021 through 2025. So some good news for 2020, we received federal and state grants to assist with paying for the significant portion of our bus purchases through 2023. We received care funds that covered some of our operating expenses in 2020. We successfully relocated the administrative offices from the Gwynn Building to the Huntington Building in April of 2020 amid the start of a statewide stay-at-home order. On May 14th, SORTA made history with the passing of the sales tax levy. 19 new buses were put into service in September 2020. 10 additional buses are expected to arrive later this month and be put into service early next year. And the Northside Transit Center opened in October. Some of our challenges and opportunities going into 2021. Although there have been some recent announcements of a vaccine and the delivery and rollout has started this week, COVID will continue to impact SORTA in many ways. Most significantly, it will continue to negatively impact ridership and fare revenue, as well as the sales tax levy revenue in 2021. We also expect to continue to incur additional costs for PPE to keep our customers and their employees all safe. In September, the board authorized that SORTA to hold public meetings for fare changes, i.e. the fare simplification project that will make the bus system easier to use. SORTA has been holding public meetings and taking comments about the proposed changes and expect to bring the final recommendation to the board in January 2021 to implement in March. And the rollout of the Reinventing Metro plan will begin mid-year with a continued focus on increasing frequency, span, and service area while reducing trip times for our customers. Some of the assumptions for the 2021 budget. The sales tax levy, Metro's portion of the sales tax levy was estimated based on data provided by the county and the UC Economic Center. Reinventing Metro, the revenue and cost of providing the new service, currently estimated to begin in the third quarter of 2021, is reflected in the 2021 budget and 2022 projections. The vacancy rate for positions is approximately 10%. Medical costs, 7% increase compared to the 2020 budget. And the strategic plan, all operating and capital costs are included in the 2021 budget and 2022 projections. As I mentioned previously, we are proposing an operating budget of $121,509,000 for 2021, which is an increase of 19% from the 2020 budget of $101,977,000. I'll just skip through I'll highlight everything really quickly. Looking at the revenue first, Metro fares, we are anticipating a 17% decrease in the 2020 budget from $15,654,000 to $12,995,000 for 21, and a 37% decrease for access fares from $964,000 to $611,000. As you can see from the projected ridership above, we anticipate that ridership will continue to be down approximately 16% in total for the year as a whole from the 2020 budget. We expect that ridership will gradually increase throughout the year as the vaccine rolls out, people return to the office, and as we roll out the additional service for Reinventing Metro.
Hey, Michelle, I remember when we looked at this, a lot of that gets caught up in assumptions around CPS, right? Which is a big piece of the decrease this year. So help everybody understand what we assume for that.
Sure. So when we were working on the budget, the this was done over the last several months. So keep in mind some things have changed since we presented this initially. The CPS contract, as you mentioned, we show it increasing by 2% from $7,068,000 to $7,201,000 in the 21 budget. We are going to be using a lot of forecasting throughout the year this year to adjust for all the changes with the CPS contract as it continues to, as they make decisions to whether to stay in person or learn remotely. Other contract revenue decreasing by 6% from $2,030,000 to $1,901,000 in the 21 budget, as we have adjusted for the delay in Butler County returning to service due to COVID. The non-transportation revenue is decreasing by 65% from $2,150,000 to $747,000 due to the lower interest rate environment for our investment income, as well as lower advertising revenue due to COVID. Sales tax for operating. Although the sales tax is new for the 2021 budget, this is being compared to the previous city transit fund since the sales tax replaced the city earnings tax. This is increasing by 55% from $53,900,000 to $83,779,000. State subsidies. Due to COVID and the constraints it has put on the state of Ohio's budget, we anticipate that state subsidies will be reduced by 43% from $2,955,000 to $1,675,000 for 2021. Any additional questions on the revenue? And Craig, to your point regarding the ridership for CPS and fixed route ridership, this will be so imperative that we're forecasting throughout the year so we can adjust to our budget accordingly for any changes in ridership.
What was the $92 million you said earlier? When you first started, you said $92 million. What was the $92 million? When you're going through your numbers at the very beginning, did I mishear that?
Maybe you heard 9.2 million?
Is that it?
Is that our operating budget for this year?
Yes. Our operating budget for this year is $121,509,000.
Okay.
But I'm wondering if it was around the fixed route service.
Right.
Yes, the fixed route service, we expect fare revenue to be $15,654,000 compared to $12,995,000. Or excuse me, I reversed that. $12,995,000 for 2021 versus $15,654,000 for 2020's budget. Sorry about that.
And I guess on the sales tax line, that's the original expectations are down a little bit from what we thought in the original plans, right? Just because of the.
Correct. We worked with UC to revise and get updated forecast due to COVID. We knew there would be some changes to the expected sales tax revenue.
Right. So it looks like I think it's down about 10 million maybe. But then obviously the employee wages, there's a lot of hiring going to go on to meet the Reinventing Metro plan, right? One of our big challenges for.
Correct. And great segue, Craig. Thank you. I was moving on to the expenses. The employee wages and benefits are increasing by 14%, from $79,922,000 to $90,774,000 in the 2021 budget. This is due to the increased medical care costs of 7%, as well as the cost of additional operators, maintenance, personnel, and staff needed to roll out all of the Reinventing Metro plan. Fuel and lubricants we show decreasing by 8% from $5,570,000 in the 20 budget to $5,103,000 in the 21 budget due to the lower cost of fuel per gallon from the previous year. Parts and supplies increasing by 25% from $5,856,000 to $7,321,000 due to the additional costs of COVID-related PPE, as well as additional parts needed to support the additional miles driven when additional services rolled out. The Empowerment Fund is new for 2021 and part of the Reinventing Metro plan. And the other line is increasing by 79% from $9,098,000 to $16,241,000 in the 21 budget. This increase includes marketing campaigns, public meetings, consultants for the rollout of Reinventing Metro, as well as much needed IT upgrades, amongst other things. Are there any additional questions on the operating budget?
How do you, sorry,
into this or relate to the budget? Or do you know?
Great question. So the CARES funds will be continued to be used throughout the remainder of this year. So we still have to finish up December. And when we get to the financials today, you'll see how much we've used thus far and how much we still have available for December.
But you had to use them all this year, right?
We had to use them all this year. So any excess that we do have, any excess related from fair revenue and from the city funds, we'll be able to roll into 2021 as a surplus.
Thank you.
You mentioned some Lake to redone. I'm sorry, I can't. It's hard to tell if you're still questioning. Do you yield the floor?
I yield.
You mentioned something about some consultants and things. Can you?
Sure. So as we're rolling out the Reinventing Metro Plan, we had a lot of high-level assumptions built into the Reinventing Metro Plan. As we dig into the weeds and get further into the details, we'll work with consultants to make sure that we're providing the best service that our customers want and need. And we'll also, go ahead.
We'll be looking at circulators and, a lot of the new service that is in Reinventing Metro will be using some consultants to help plan some of those circulators and other things like that.
Okay.
Before moving on to capital, any other questions on the operating budget? As you'll see, we've taken a little different approach to showing capital this year. Transportation, we start at the top with transportation. You will see how many buses we are scheduled to purchase over the next 5 years and the total purchase cost. So you'll see in 2021, there's 40 compared to the remaining years of 30. And this is due to the timing of the last 10 buses arriving in December 2021. Those won't be paid for until January. The next line is the total amount of local funds that we currently have set aside for the local match for grants that are already awarded, followed by how much local funds are still needed for grants awarded or anticipated to be awarded. So as you'll see, for just the transportation side of the bus purchases, we have set aside $16,618,000 for local fund matches for bus grants. But we still need an additional $10,538,000 for years 2023 through 2025, and that's in the local funds. For paratransit, you'll see a similar picture with the fixed route buses above. We have set aside $352,000 of local funds for paratransit vehicle grants, which is sufficient for 21 and 2022. We will still need an additional $483,000 for years 23 through 25 in local match funds. And finally, looking at
Where does that come from?
So the local match will come from the sales tax, also from revenue. So it's any excess that we will not be using for operating funds.
There's also opportunities for additional grants, like grants from the state of Ohio and places like that. That money will come from there as well.
So looking at infrastructure, we broke infrastructure into the categories shown of facility upgrades, BRT development, computer equipment and software, park and ride development, mechanical equipment, and other. In 2021, SORTA will need $12,415,000 to fund these infrastructure projects, which are all part of the Reinventing Metro Plan and the Strategic Plan. As you will see, we have set aside $23,544,000 for local funds for infrastructure projects, which covers 21 and part of 2022, but we still need an additional $64,146,000 for years 22 through 25 in local funds. And to your point, Brendan, we will continue to aggressively apply to grant funds now to cover the capital deficit in the future years.
Yeah, I guess I might be, this might be dense, but I don't understand why the deficit is showing to be so large when the Reinventing Metro Plan is meant to fund this work. So what you're saying is that we anticipate this deficit being filled by other matches. I want to be clear that what we said we were going to do with Reinventing Metro is to be able to fund the plan, and that is still funded, and that this quote unquote deficit is not our share. Is that right? Or I'm just surprised to see such a big number on there, given what we've just dedicated to the program.
So, Brendan, what we've done is we've done the budget because of the pandemic this year, and the unsurety of ridership and where sales tax revenue was coming in, 5-10 years out. We've done the budget for the next 2 years. We have not done the operating budget 5 years out. So this deficit will go away as things start to normalize, and we understand what the sales tax revenue is, what the ridership revenue is, and those funds will come from either grants or from the sales tax. So that deficit will go away, but we just haven't done it 5 years out because of the uncertainty for next year. But as we do next year's budget, and we understand, getting towards the end of 2021, when ridership comes back and we understand what the real sales tax revenue will be because the pandemic will be over, then we'll do the budget out 5 or 6 years, and then those deficits will go away because we'll use that sales tax number, we'll use the grants that we have coming in to cover those deficits. We just haven't done the budget out 5 years yet.
Is this based on where we are right now in terms of funding, based on like a conservative pandemic is with us funding, or do you?
So there is a conservative approach taken to this with the pandemic is in play because ridership has not come back yet. So we do have some conservative, but also before Reinventing Metro, before the levy was passed, we knew we had a large capital deficit. So we were not as aggressive in going out for some of the larger grants that we will now be going after because we would have needed that local match. And until the levy was passed, we were not sure if we would be able to have that local match in any way. So now that the levy has passed, our grants team is working very diligently and aggressively going after every single grant dollar available to us for every single infrastructure project we have on here.
Okay.
I think some of this spending is somewhat outside of the Reinventing Metro plan, right? Some of that facility stuff is a little aggressive versus as a minimum. So I think we got to focus on these first couple of years and get it solved.
And there's a lot of opportunity for facilities, grants, which is something that we have not gone after in the past, that we will be going after in the future. So a lot of this is going to be covered by grant opportunities that are out there, and it won't be the full dollar amount, it'll just be the local match. I'm confident that over the course of the next few years, we're going to find tons of grant money, and as well as some of the surplus from the sales tax that will be used to cover our capital budget. I don't see this as being an issue whatsoever. And as this pandemic ends and we start working on the budget at the end of next year, we'll have a better feel for what ridership revenue, both sales tax revenue as well as fare revenue looks like. So we'll start plugging these holes in the out years.
I was curious about the computer equipment and software lines and the 11 million and the out years, and total of nearly 14 million. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're anticipating there?
Sure. So as you've heard many times when we've come to the board for our audit updates, our servers, our software, everything that we've had for technology, we are 5-6 versions behind and more. So we are in a dire situation of having to make sure that all of our systems are upgraded to be secure. That has been some issues with the audit findings, is making sure that our servers are secure, our systems are secure. So the best way to do that is be on the most current versions of software upgrades. Also making sure that our servers, as we move to the cloud, space for additional software as well.
So as you all will recall, we got $2 million this year from the state of Ohio in grant funds to upgrade some of our technology. It is anticipated that there will be additional dollars for technology as we move forward to plug these holes as well in the out years. Right now, all of the infrastructure money, it's all in the budget with local dollars. But there will be opportunities for grants to cover some of those local dollars, and it won't be all done with local dollars. We'll find additional grant opportunities.
And also included in that computer equipment software is all of the upgrading our buses to have Wi-Fi on every single bus, as well as upgrading our DVR and camera systems on those buses too.
Thank you. Also, I assume there will be work being done on the BRT, even though there's nothing in the infrastructure costs for 2021. We'll be working on that and building up to the development in the later years, right?
Right. Yeah, some of that will be in the consulting costs that we talked about earlier. Yes.
And we'll be aggressively applying for those grants early as possible to make sure that as we get into those outer years that we're able to do that.
Thank you.
So taking the capital needs shown on the previous slide, this slide shows where we have committed local funds by year. In 2021, we are using $8,758,000 from the sales tax revenue. We anticipate that we'll receive approximately $9 million from the City Transit Fund true-up in early 2021. And we have reserved bus match of $6,964,000 for 2021, an additional capital reserve of $6,267,000. This is from the 2020 sales tax revenue that we've been setting aside these past 3 months. For total local match capital funds available in the amount of $30,989,000, of which $19,555,000 will be used in 2021, and $11,434,000 will be used in 2022.
Yes, there's my number, $92 million. All right.
Yeah.
So this $92 million, does that, when you say a portion of the sales tax, so it doesn't include the amount for roads and infrastructure projects?
That's correct. That is separate from this.
Okay.
Any additional questions on?
Thaddeus has been looking for that $92 million for about 20 minutes. I think
Sorry,
it's
Thaddeus.
it's also the Powerball number tonight, man. Go play. Go play.
And obviously, any of that big capital spending, the specifics will have to come back to the board in any event. And I think it's an aggressive plan, and we know there's money out there for it. But there's nothing to believe that we would be at risk at doing the reinventing Metro plan because of those numbers.
Agreed. And we took a very conservative approach this year, especially with the state of Ohio, where we've been, for the past 2 years, we've been very successful in applying for and receiving grants from the state of Ohio for a lot of our IT needs. We took a conservative approach taking that out this year, just knowing because of the pandemic that the state of Ohio funds may not be there as they have for the past 2 years, but we would expect them to come back.
We also hope to be successful in grant applications for some of those planning dollars as well.
Yeah. Just in other boards that I've been on, and in my own organization, we're obviously reacting to the pandemic in a similar fashion, being very conservative and kind of setting up a worst case scenario. But would you characterize this budget as, this gets us through even if we are in the worst of the pandemic through 2021, and that we can continue to adjust as ridership comes back and as the dollars come on, or do you feel like you've made some bets that, God willing, everyone's got the vaccine and everything's back to normal by April? I wanted you to maybe offer some color commentary on you've thought about this obviously in terms of a more conservative approach.
So we believe that this will get us through 2022. We believe that the budget that we have in front of you will get everything that we promised the community for reinventing Metro in both 2021 and 2022 without a problem. But again, we're going
under the circumstances of the world that we're in right now.
Under circumstances of the world that we're in right now, pandemic begins to die down about the third quarter of next year, and we begin to increase ridership the third quarter of next year when we start rolling out new service. So it doesn't get back to normal next year, and we're also not anticipating any increase in ridership until the middle of next year.
Middle of 22 or
21.
Okay, so there is some upside in this budget in terms of if things start to come back. And will we do some recasts, through the year? I assume you'll come back and at some point and say, here's what we're seeing based on the changing circumstances.
Yes,
Yeah,
this year we plan on presenting updated forecasting to the board, at least on a quarterly basis this year, because of the circumstances, but also out of prudence and diligence for the board as well.
The other thing the board will see throughout next year as things start to normalize is we'll get aggressive on our marketing campaigns to make sure that the community is aware of all of the new service, the new connections, to make sure we're doing everything we can to increase ridership, to work on the other side of that equal sign, the revenue side of the equal sign.
Okay. If we have action item here to approve, right? Heidi, do you want to make a resolution?
Yeah, I'd like to make a resolution that we approve the 2021 budget.
Okay. Motion properly. All right, properly moved and seconded. Any other questions? I know that. Chanel?
Mrs. Beck?
Yeah.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Etheridge?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Hinton?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffmeister?
Yes.
Mr. Cassie?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Wynette?
Yes.
All right, that's great. And that's exciting because that's the resources we use to drive all the promises we've made to the community about a better system. So that's exciting stuff. Heidi, the consent discussion.
Thanks. Yeah, and then we also have several items, consent agenda items. The first is approval for the 2021 property insurance contract. I will just to give you guys a sense, property insurance is really challenging right now because of all of the natural disasters that occurred across the country in 2020. So pretty significant increase in property insurance costs, but Michelle and her team were able to get some cost savings in workers' comp and a few other areas. So that I believe overall it is less money than we spent in 2020. Is that correct, Michelle?
That is correct for the property and excessive workers' comp.
The other three resolutions in this consent agenda are around. The next one is around the extension of the billboard advertising leasing agreement with Lamar Advertising. This is a revenue contract. Lamar basically pays us to advertise in our right-of-ways. Is that right? Okay. Thank you for the head nod. Don't want to make things up. And then the next three are approval of service contracts for Metro service with Butler County, Claremont County, and Warren County. So this is to ensure that we are working with them to provide service. The majority of these are where the counties pay for the service. We just have to approve it. And Daryl's nodding his head, so I'm assuming that means I'm right. Michelle, do you want to add anything or anybody from your team?
I think you've covered it pretty well.
Cool. Thank you. So those are all of the Finance items on the consent agenda.
All right. Are you moving that we approve them?
I would like to make a motion that we approve all of those items.
Second.
Second.
All right. Motion probably moved and seconded. Any questions or anything anybody wants to talk about? Okay, Chanel?
Ms. Wynette?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Cassie?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffmeister?
Yes.
Mr. Hinton?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Etheridge?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yep.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
And Ms. Black?
Yes.
Anything else from finance, Heidi?
No, just want to give a huge shout out and kudos to Michelle and her team for just a really incredible year of work in 2020 in what I think is one of the hardest work environments ever this year with the pandemic, and they've just done a really incredible job. So want to make sure they get recognized for that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Heidi. All right, Brendan. Planning and ops.
We had a lovely planning and operations committee meeting last Tuesday. John always gives some great news, so I would encourage you to check the minutes from that planning and ops committee, where you can read about what John and team here. We had 3 items on the consent agenda, so we'll do those first. 8, 9, and 10. 11 is not actually on the consent agenda. A towing services contract that's remaining with the same vendor, in particular because they agreed to show up in the middle of the night, which is important for us, given that we're moving towards adding some 24-hour services in 2021. Modification to a tower contract. We own some. Daryl has a small apartment on some land that Duke Energy owns. We got a renewal on that lease. Just kidding. This is just for a antenna tower, I think, that we have. And then the reapproval of the contract for the Delhi Park and Ride. So those are the 3 items on the consent agenda. There was no meaningful discussion or controversy, and so I would ask for a motion to approve 8, 9, and 10 on the consent.
So moved.
Second.
I think you're muted, Craig, if you're telling us what to do.
Sorry, I was poetry too. The properly moved and seconded. If anybody wants to bring anything off the consent agenda, speak now. Otherwise, Chanel.
Ms. Black?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Wynette?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffmeister?
Yes.
Mr. Cassie?
Yes.
Mr. Hinton?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
And Mr. Etheridge?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Number 11 is a proposed resolution for the approval of a right-of-way consultant. The background on what this is most of you know, the SORTA owns a number of pieces of land throughout the region. They're described here as the Oasis line and the Blue Ash line, but they're basically rail lines that go all throughout the county. We have had since the late 90s. There has been some discussion with the FTA about essentially, I'm going to shorten this, but a use them or lose them sort of conversation with the FTA, where they want us to make sure that we have a plan for what we're going to do with these rail lines. This is typical of what the FTA does with resources that they finance or purchase for us. So when we originally bought these, it was light rail and metro moves, et cetera, et cetera. We've been holding on to them for our ability to be able to make some decisions. A great example of when this sort of thing happens is, for instance, when SORTA is.
Yeah, I didn't.
I don't know if I'm getting some Donna, maybe mute yours. So Riverfront Transit Center is a great example. We were able this year, thanks to Daryl and team's leadership, to program the Riverfront Transit Center ever since last year's Blink. We are now unloading and loading passengers in the transit center and continuing to use it for other purposes. FTA loves that because now we've got a resource that they helped buy and that we're using for transit purposes. So this work will contract us with AECOM, who we've had a great relationship with, and they do really great work in this space, to look at all of our rail property throughout the region and help us create a good plan to go forward. It could mean that in some pieces of it, we're going to decide to offload and arrange the appropriate transactions to move away from it. In other situations, they might say you've got a really great opportunity to do X with it. We already know as a board that we have identified a couple of pieces of these properties. For instance, we own some land behind the old F&W building near Xavier that will help connect Avondale to the Wasson Way bike trail along a little rail bed there. That's a great example of us being able to use assets that we have to help build out our multimodal transit system. You can imagine someone being able to get on a bus and then get off the bus and put their bike on the front of the bus and ride away. So our buses interact with the bike network very well. It's really part of one multimodal transit system. So all this to say, this is a great way for us to be diligent and thoughtful about our plan when it comes to the rail assets that we own. And importantly, to those of us, many of you on the board have been working to do these trail connections along Oasis in the city and along Wasson. None of this work precludes our ability to be able to move those projects forward while they are looking at the overall assessment, which has been really important. So that's the background on that. Daryl, John, I don't know if I missed anything there or anything that you want to add, but that is the description of the discussion that we had last week.
You did an outstanding job. Nothing to add.
Thank you. You want to make a motion?
I will move it.
I will second.
All right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? What I would add is that this also could be part of this discussion of some BRT type potential with these assets too. So I think there's a lot of great opportunities for the community. But with no other question, we will move it to vote, Chanel.
Ms. Black,
Yes.
Ms. Wynette,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Etheridge,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Hinton,
Yes.
Mr. Castillo,
Yes.
and Mr. Hoffmeister.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Anything else from planning and ops?
No, I just say is that since we were together last, the next spur of the Wasson Way opened, and you guys know I love this stuff tremendously. We didn't have anything to do with that piece of it because it was a different. The rail line that they converted for that part that just opened was owned by. It was a transaction with the rail company in the city. But go see it and go see how our system interacts with it. And I think it is really tremendous because we've got bus stops all around. It's connecting people throughout our region in new ways. And just from a big picture, when we talk a lot about how transit helps connect people, particularly multimodal transit, this is just such a big part of it. So I'd encourage all of you to go see it and see how this can help our transit system be that much better.
And it is much wonderful to see all the people walking across the street from my house.
That's right. It's right out your front door.
Right out my front door.
Housing values going up, right?
Yes, it is.
I know you wanted to say that in this difficult year, John and his team have done a great job as well.
would finish by saying that they're monthly. John comes in and highlights the good news of what's going on at Metro, and that has been a nice spot during a pandemic, because it would be very easy for us to stop and wallow in lower ridership numbers and some other challenges that we faced, or the fact that we've had a lot of operators who have had to get healthy after getting COVID diagnoses. This has changed the lives of a lot of people, and in addition to managing all that very carefully, you've kept us up to date on all of the good things that have still happened despite a really, really difficult year. So thank you to you, and also thank you to everybody who's part of the operations organization, because that includes the people who are making things happen on a day-to-day basis. So Craig, thanks for mentioning that, but I'm really proud of this team.
Absolutely. Great work, guys. Thank you.
Thank you all very much, and a lot of credit goes to the team, like you said. Thank you.
And speaking of which, the labor committee did meet. That's Alan, Rod, Blake, and myself. And not much to report other than the negotiations continue. And, I think there's a great opportunity to both operators in a real way, and to kind of make needed changes to how we operate. So more to come on that. Okay. Michelle?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Behind tab 13, you will find the monthly financial report for the 11 months ending November 30th. Total revenue of $1.8 million was unfavorable to budget by $6,241,000, or 78%. Total expenses of $8.1 million was favorable to budget by $288,000, or 3.4%. Our operating deficit for the month before using CARES funds to balance was $6,374,000. Funds from the CARES Act of $6,374,000 were used to balance the operating results in November, and $19,487,000 year to date. Total operating results before balancing with available funds was unfavorable by $5,953,000 for the month, and unfavorable by $14,857,000 for year to date. The estimated sales tax revenue of $7,139,000 was recorded as capital revenue for the month, and $14,278,000 year to date. The accrued revenue is being used to build the capital reserves needed to cover the capital deficit, and the estimated sales tax revenue was provided by the UC Economic Center. Some of the most significant factors driving the results for November were fair revenue was unfavorable to budget by $431,000, or 36%. CPS contract revenue was unfavorable to budget by $408,000, or 60%, due to virtual learning on Mondays and CPS's decision to return to 100% virtual learning starting November 23rd. Non-transportation revenue was unfavorable to budget by $63,000, or 38%, primarily due to investment income being unfavorable to budget by $54,000, and advertising income being unfavorable by $24,000. Other contract revenue was unfavorable to budget by $221,000. In addition to the impact of ending service for Butler County due to COVID, unfavorable adjustments were recorded in the month of November related to Butler and Warren County's share of the federal funds. Federal subsidies was unfavorable by $385,000, or 37%, due to adjustments made from the apportionment share of federal funds for preventive maintenance. This is due to timing. The federal government's fiscal year starts in October, as we estimate for budget purposes in the fourth quarter. Those are the financial reports for the month ending November 30th. Any questions?
Down here, I know that it's exciting and interesting times, right? And I think some of the questions around the ridership, obviously we're still down a little bit lower than what we have projected for much of the year next year, so we will have to pay close attention to that. And obviously the school piece, as that evolves as well. So thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Daryl?
Metro on the Move this month is dedicated to the year 2020. I won't go through the whole thing, but I will invite you all to read Metro on the Move. It begins with the start of 2020. For the first time in more than a decade, we started the year with a ridership increase which we're really excited about. And then it talks a lot about what some of the challenges we faced due to the pandemic. It talks about how the organization, the employees of the organization, really stood up to make 2020 better than it could have been. With all the challenges we face. It also talks about the members of our community, how they stood up and really understood how important transit is and how important transit is to changing a region and reforming a region. It also talks about a few of the successes that we had even through the pandemic. We were able to really do some really exciting things and have some big successes. And Metro on the Move ends with a big thank you to our board of directors for all of your leadership, your commitment, and your support in helping us fulfill our mission. So thank you very much. I invite you all to read it in its entirety. And I'd like to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to the board of directors. Thank you all so much for all the hard work in 2020. As crazy as 2020 has been, there were a lot of successes, and there is a very bright future for this organization because all of the work that the employees inside the organization, the community, and the commitment from our board. Thank you all very much. That concludes my report, unless you have any questions.
No, thanks to you and the staff as well, and wishing everybody Merry Christmas and looking forward to 2021.
Absolutely, Daryl. Great. Appreciate your leadership and the full team's engagement. I know what's been both an exciting and challenging year.
It was interesting.
Yeah, that's a couple coming on. Any new business anybody wanted to bring up?
Yeah, I have a question. Can and would SORTA require employees to get a vaccine?
That determination has not been made yet. We are watching what happens with the rest of the country. I'm not sure if legally we could or could not. I'm sure there'll be a lot of legislation that'll come out about that, not only for us, but for other organizations as well. And as it does, I will make sure we share that with the board.
Do you have a legal opinion on that, Ian?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a legal opinion on the ability?
No, I defer to Ms. Schaefer. I think she's here. No, we had done it. I heard them say that at my job that they were going to make it. I'm just curious what other folks are doing.
Kim, I don't know if you have anything that.
I don't have anything to add. That's a very hotly debated topic right now about whether employers can make their employees take the vaccine. So we have to look into that further.
I will tell you, we are lobbying for the transit employees, those frontline employees, to get moved up as close to the front of the line to receive the vaccine as we can, because it is important. They're out in the public, and when it becomes available, we want to be closer to the front of the line versus closer to the end of the line. So we are working diligently to try to get access to those vaccines sooner rather than later.
And are you partnering?
There is a lobby group happening right now in D.C. that is lobbying for transit workers to be essential and in the front row of getting.
You are correct.
Yeah, so there is a strong advocacy for it, and it is a national movement, so that is happening.
Yes.
I would just say that closely you can work with CPS on that too, given the fact that we're going to, part of getting them back to school is our ability to serve and move their kids from home to school. And so I don't know if I think the teachers have a pretty big plan to get theirs. Our drivers should be a part of that.
And the ATU is also, we're working with the ATU as well. They're also having a big push to try to get us moved closer to the front of the line as well.
Great.
There'll be an interesting discussion around getting to the front line and then seeing who wants to participate, to Thaddeus's comment. And certainly it's a broader discussion. There's other vaccines out there that we haven't required folks to have.
us to do, which is if we can't require it, and my suspicion is we won't be able to require it. So I think that just feels like that's likely the direction in which to go, and that's fine. It does seem to me that it is important for us to have a robust communications effort to our employees about the importance of doing it. There's a lot of information out there about this. There's been a lot of bad information out there about this, but the only way we're going to get our country past this is if people get this vaccine. And so how do we make sure that we show people that it's safe? How do we make sure that, even if you're doing some events with employees where, there's something in our offices where someone's giving the vaccine so that you can have pictures of, Daryl, you and Troy get it together or something. I don't know. Use different needles. But the point is do something that we can show to our employees and team that this is safe and healthy and that leaders are willing to step up and do it.
We're also really focused on how to make it relatively easy for our employees to get the vaccine as well. I'm not sure if we'll be able to get someone on site at the garages to give it, but what are some of the opportunities for us to really push a large number of people through to have the vaccine available to them?
Absolutely. Good topic, and we'll make sure that's on the agenda for early next year. And again, I appreciate all the hard work everyone has done as we reconstitute the board in January. A lot of you will still be with us, I know, and looking forward to great things in 2021. Until then, enjoy the holidays.
Happy holidays.
Going to business, I move to adjourn.